Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about a new documentary that's on HBO Max as of August 1st, entitled Betrayal at Attica. Now, I've actually watched this a couple of times. I got my hands on a advanced screener due to knowing someone who knows the director. I know the director, not personally, but from actually a podcast that I listened to called Podcast Winterfell about Game of Thrones that I listened to back when Game of Thrones was airing. And yeah, I got a link to check out the documentary. I watched it then, and I watched it again once it hit HBO Max because I wanted to be able to watch it, with the captions on, like I like to watch stuff, and on within the HBO Max platform, and just to kind of like take it all in a second time because I felt so strongly about how I felt about the film after watching it the first time that I wanted to watch it again just to see if it still garner the same reactions out of me. And I gotta tell you guys, this movie's fucking incredible. I mean, like, I don't react to things viscerally very often, but there were times in this film where I was really upset, on the verge of tears, which my tear ducts barely work. Like, I'm not a crier. I don't get emotional, that kind of stuff, but there were some moments in this film that are incredibly emotional and incredibly difficult to watch. And man, I don't even know where to begin. There's so much to cover, and I still want to keep this video around the normal length of 15 minutes or so, give or take. But there's so many different things that I kind of wanted to touch on in regard to this film, because there's a lot that's done right to maximize impact. Because like you can always say like, okay, here's what happened in this situation. I'm going to explain that as well. Here's what happened in this situation. Here's how horrible it is. And you can take away from that and go, oh man, that is fucked up. That sucks. But then when you add on context, and I've been talking about context a lot in my videos for Dave, which is ironic that I'm talking about context and comparing Dave to this. But like, I've talked about context a lot in a lot of my Dave videos, and how that helps to take a good moment and make it a great moment. And this film gives you the context that you need to understand why what happened, and why the events that took place after what happened at Attica, or the massacre, I should say, why those things happened as well. So I'm going to get into some of that. I'm going to get into what the film's about briefly. I'm going to try to keep, I don't want to call it spoilers, but I don't want to take away your viewing experience by telling you the whole fucking movie. Like, this is what happened here. Like, I'm going to talk about a couple of specific moments, but I'm not gonna give everything away, because I really want you all to experience this, and I fully support this directorial style, which I'll get into that a little bit later as well. But I'm going to start basically just giving you a real quick 2-sentence rundown of what the film's essentially about. It's about a massacre that happened at Attica prison in New York in September '71, and that's really it. These prisoners decided to rebel. They took over the prison, and it was decided that there were myriad ways that they could have taken the prison back. But ultimately, they landed on the one that killed all the black people. Well, I can't say all the black people; they're white people too. So yeah. But ultimately, they decided that they wanted to kill all these people because they're expendable, right? Like, you have you have prisoners, majority black. They're not respected. They're looked at as subhuman. They're not treated as human within the prison. Why take them safely and not set the example of don't fuck with us when you can kill them and set the don't fuck with us example? So that's essentially what happened. The story is told mainly through the eyes of, or through the words of, I should say, Elizabeth Fink, who's a lawyer for, I think it was called Attica Brothers. I forget the full title of this group. But she's a lawyer for this group, and she's an interesting character in and of herself, right? So she tells a lot about her upbringing with her parents, who are interesting characters to say the least, and how that essentially colored her views on America and how black people are treated and revolutionaries and how they become revolutionaries and their actions going forward and how the government looks to shut them down. Like all of that upbringing of hers kind of made her someone who wants to fight for those kind of people. So she essentially became a lawyer for revolutionaries, kind of. But her story in and of itself is interesting, and she narrates the vast majority of this film, telling what happened. And the director, Michael Hull, he narrates portions of the film as well, but we never see him on camera. And I think that was an interesting decision. I'm assuming that he didn't really want to make it about him. Like, this is Elizabeth's story to tell, and he didn't want to insert himself into that. So I respect that, but he narrates every now and then as well. But like I said, Elizabeth tells this story. Apparently she passed in 2015, and Michael received all of this unreleased footage and documents and photos that detailed everything that happened here, stuff that was not released that Attica is trying to keep under wraps, and New York, actually, I shouldn't have even corrected that, is trying to keep under wraps. And these images, I mean, I don't know if I've seen anything this, just this graphic and impactful. And when I say that I support this directorial style, I feel like this is necessary to really drive home what's happening, which is why, when these police shootings happen and they get shared on Twitter and people go, I don't want to see another police shooting. Why are you sharing this? All this kind of stuff, right? I've always been of the belief that even if I don't feel like watching it, I watch it anyway, because I feel like I need to feel the emotions that this sort of thing triggers. And so that way it can fuel my actions. If you pretend like it's not there, you can settle in apathy and just go on living your rose-tinted glasses life as if they're not beating the shit and killing black people like for shits and giggles every day. That's not the reality. And as much as reality may inconvenience you, you need to understand what is happening to people in this country and what has been happening historically. And you don't do that by saying, oh, that's too hard to watch, I'm not going to watch that. So I support the in-your-face approach that this documentary takes with showing this video and these photos. And it's incredibly graphic. I mean, we're talking bullet-riddled bodies. We're talking torture photos. We're talking photos of lynchings, hangings, all sorts of things, kind of like talking about the history of how black people have been treated in this country, and then leading into what happens in Attica. Like, you see all kinds of stuff that it's really tough to look at. But like I said, I feel like that kind of thing is necessary. I need to feel this kind of stuff. It's easy for me to sit here in my office and pretend like everything going on in the world is okay, and it's not. And even when you know that's not the case, it just hits different when you see it. When you see somebody being beaten like that for no reason, or you see a kid getting shot for no reason other than just being black. When you see that kind of stuff happening in this day and age today, it makes you feel something different than if you just kind of pretend it's not there. And that's why I implore everybody to watch this, because I feel like we need to see this kind of stuff, because, this happened in 1971. It still happens today, 50 years later, it's still happening. And these are kinds of things that we need to stop allowing people to push it under the rug. These are the things that we need to be blasting this kind of shit everywhere. This documentary needs to be shown in fucking classrooms. That's how serious this shit is, and that's how important it is. And everyone needs to watch this kind of stuff so they can understand what's really happening to people in this country and what has historically been happening. But I'm gonna cut my rant short here and get back to the film. So aside from the imagery, I want to go back to talking about laying the groundwork, right? So like I said at the top of the video, you could just show, hey, here's what happened in Attica, and here's how it was fucked up, all that kind of stuff, right? But what this documentary does, when I talked about adding context to these events, the documentary starts off talking about the treatment of black people in America historically, and then how that led into mass incarceration, and how mass incarceration led into this rebellion at Attica because of the treatment of people in this prison. They don't treat these people like humans. They treat them like shit. And when you have you know, I think I talked about this on oh, what was it? I can't remember. It's one of my one of the other videos. I have like 180 videos on this channel now, so I don't know which one it was. But I talked about the idea of pain being passed down from generation to generation. I think it might have been the videos about Amazon's Them, but I talked about pain being passed down from generation to generation. And when you have that kind of treatment of Black people historically, and then it just keeps happening and happening, I think it even if we don't know it, that anger and that pain is still in our DNA. And when you put people into positions where you are continuing to mistreat them, and then you mass incarcerate them for bullshit reasons, and then you put them in prison, and then you treat them like shit there, what do you expect to happen, right? So now you have context, and you go, okay, I understand now why these prisoners decided enough is enough. And so then the documentary kind of goes into the actual events of what happened on that day. And again, like I mentioned at the top of the video, there were a myriad of options here. Elizabeth Fink even said that the National Guard's plan or desire, not even plan, desire, was to essentially drop in there, hit them with some tear gas and rough them up, put them back in prison. Done. And the state police were, no, we're gonna go in right now, and not even go in. We're gonna shoot people from on catwalks and whatnot, and do it that way to set an example, because these people mean nothing to us. And we see video of this, we see photos of this, and like I said, it's incredibly graphic, but also incredibly necessary. Oh man, I'm all over the place here. I have all these notes that I like to organize my notes before I start recording a video, so that it plays out in a fairly start to finish kind of way. It's like it has a flow to it. And I'm all over the place. I haven't even looked at my notes. So let me see. I talked about laying the groundwork for the impact of the rebellion. I talked about Elizabeth and her upbringing, so that was in my notes. I talked about the graphic nature and how I agree with that. They show the Emmett Till photos, which though I've seen the Emmett Till photos I don't know how many times, and it's never less upsetting. It's always just terrible. I talked about the myriad options of what they could have done versus what they actually did. So now I'm going to pick up talking about what happened afterward, because it's not just about the massacre itself. So after the massacre was over, they took the remaining living prisoners and beat the shit out of them and tortured them too. Mind you, there were also hostages here. Hostages like guards, like people that they had taken hostage. I think they said there was like 7 or 8 of them that died. And amongst the massive number of lies that were told post-massacre, one of them tried to paint it like the prisoners killed these hostages, when in reality, the prisoners were trying to keep the hostages safe. It was just the fact that they were considered expendable. Like, if you're just going to dump bullets everywhere, you're not going to be like, okay, who are these people are prisoners? Let's get them out. I mean, hostages versus prisoners, let's get them out. Like, no, they're expendable when the goal is to cut down everybody who's in this prison. So, I'll get to the lies later, but they beat and tortured these people who were living. They made them strip down naked, crawl across the prison, beat them all the way, and then they tortured people who were considered to be more involved in the rebellion than others who might have just been around for it. And this led into 2 things that I think are the most impactful scenes that were in the film. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about them, but the first is a call between Governor Rockefeller at the time, and if you live in this country, you know the Rockefeller name, between Governor Rockefeller and President Nixon. And hearing that phone call was disheartening in how unsurprising it was. You hear Nixon ask if these were black folks. You hear Rockefeller applaud the behavior of the officers in there, calling it successful, calling it great. You hear Nixon saying, "I support everything you did." It's a really bad really bad phone. I try to be more articulate, but really bad phone call is the best I can muster up in this moment. But yeah, it was really upsetting to hear this phone call because, you know, at the end of the day, you know how these sorts of people feel about these sorts of events. I'm going to stop being vague. These sorts of people, rich white politicians, your Nixons, your Rockefellers, your Trumps, you know how these people feel about these people, as in people like me, black men, you know, like, you know how they feel. And it's like I said, it's upsetting in how unsurprising it is to hear that. And yeah, Rockefeller's completely pleased. Like like essentially the phone call is them stroking each other off verbally over how great of a job they did it at cutting down the population in this prison. It's disgusting. And then the other scene that I thought was, it's a number of scenes actually, but after all of this was eventually done, there's a deposition to kind of to the people who live that are involved in this Attica brothers thing that I can't remember the name of. I fucking suck for this. There's a lawsuit. They're trying to get like it was a crazy number. I can't remember what it was, but it was like $8 billion or some shit like that, right? They're trying to get a ton of money, and they're giving these depositions. They're giving these statements, and hearing the prisoners. And this happened in, I think it was 91. Hearing the prisoners talk about this in 91, talk about what happened to them specifically, and seeing them react to it, and then couple that with, in some instances, seeing the photographs of what they're describing. So you know they're not lying. Like, you could see. Like, it was incredibly moving. There's one guy who talked about that he was laying on his back with his knees up, and they put a shotgun shell on his knee and said, if it falls, like, you're dead. Like, and he had to just hold this bullet there, this shotgun shell on his knee for hours. They were spitting on him, dropping cigarettes on him, all this kind of stuff. Multiple inmates saying that they were beaten for hours, tortured for hours. Again, lit cigarettes, spitting on them, kicking them, punching them. Several inmates talked about specifically being hit in the balls over and over, constantly talking about pissing blood for years afterward. I mean, these stories are terrible. I don't even know if I blinked. When they got to the last guy, there's a guy that comes up several times throughout the documentary, and I'm not going to go into detail about who he was or what he did or all that. You can get that when you watch it. But when he got to telling his story, I mean, I don't even think I fucking blinked, man. I was just sitting there just like transfixed. Like, this is terrible. Like, this is terrible. And he's like pounding the table, taking really long breaks. And then again, they're coupling it with the actual photographs of what he's describing. And I'm not even gonna tell you what it is, but I'm like, it was incredibly moving. And again, for the 8 millionth time, we need to be watching this kind of stuff, because we need these reminders that this is what happens, and that this ain't some 50 years ago type shit. They just knelt on George Floyd's neck last year for 8.5 minutes. Like, this isn't some a one-time moment in history. This is this country's DNA. This is how this country has been always. It has never been kind to minorities, ever. And it won't be until we outnumber them. And that's just what it is. And we need to stop with this rose-tinted glasses bullshit about how great of a country this is. This country is terrible for most people. It is. And it's really difficult to see this kind of stuff when you couple that with the fact that this is not an isolated incident in 1971. These are there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of the exact same thing happening in multiple prisons all over this country over the course of time that we just don't know about, because it's so commonplace and it's so common to hide it, shamelessly hide it. Yeah, it's rough, but those two scenes were incredible. A couple of things of note before I wrap this up. One thing I liked about Elizabeth Fink is you know, when she's telling these stories about what happened to these people, she always uses their names, their full names. And it was a little jarring at first, right? Because it made me feel like, am I supposed to know who this is? Like, she just said his name, like I know who that is. And I don't, you know, some of these people she did mention, but I don't think it's because we're supposed to know who they are. It's because she's she wants to humanize these people. Like, she doesn't want to say, one guy had this happen to him. This other guy had this thing happen to him. Or inmate, blah, 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 had this happen to him. It's like, no, James Franklin, or, there's no James Franklin. I'm just making up names. But, James Franklin had blank happen to him. This guy, say his full name, had this happen. And I like the fact that she said their full names and made sure that these people were humanized I don't know. I don't want to say in their afterlife, but posthumously. I thought that was great. And then I thought it ended on a very good note as well. It's a sequence of video where we are seeing the numerous. Numerous is an understatement, because it's happened so often. I feel it, but I feel like the country doesn't really understand, because you have those benchmark ones, your George Floyds, your Trayvon Martins. You have those ones that you remember, but they go through and show clips of police beating and killing the fairly well-known ones, beating and killing the various black people that have been beaten and killed over the course of, I don't know, we'll say 40, 50 years, something like that. But the audio is it sounds like police training audio or FBI training audio, where they're telling you how to subdue someone or something like that. And it's like, yeah, you hit them here and you do this. And it's coupled with video of them just yeah, fuck, I'm going to shoot you. I thought that was a nice way to end the video. In the movie, because that's hey, that's what it is, right? They have all the means to do things the right way. They choose not to. And that's the point here, right? They had all the options they could have to take back the prison in a way that would have allowed everyone to stay alive, but they chose to do it in a way that would kill a whole bunch of people. And just like today, they have the training to subdue or apprehend criminals without hurting anyone. And they do it all the time with white guys. They do it all the time, and they give them Burger King. But when it comes to the black guys, all of a sudden, all of that training, they forget it. I thought I grabbed my taser, or it looks like he had a gun. He had nothing. All of these things go out of the window when it's us. And I think that really does a good job of kind of hammering that nail into place right at the end. In case you didn't get it yet, here it is. So, I'm at 22 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up here. But I want to end by saying this is an incredible film. I think it's important. I think it's important to watch. It's going to be in my top 10 for 2021. I would love to see it get some Oscar nominations. I don't understand why it's not being publicized more than it is. I struggled to even find the image for the to put in my video and to put on the thumbnail. You search the movie in Google and hit images, and you get two posters. Both of them look like shit. And but yeah, it's really hard to find information about this. It wasn't prominently placed on HBO Max's landing page. I had to know about it to look for it. I almost started to say I don't understand why this isn't being pushed, but that's the words of somebody who didn't just watch this. I can understand why it might not be as publicized as it should be. But again, HBO Max took the first step of saying, hey, we're going to put this out. You can use our platform to tell this story. And I think that's great. So watch it on HBO Max. I implore you. Give me your thoughts in the comments. How I like to respond to the comments. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.